Alright, so I just finished rewatching the Merlin TV show, and the idea came to me to do a character review of most of the main characters on the show. You know, what I thought was interesting about them, what wasn't, and just give my overall opinions on them. So, first, I'm going to start with the simple characters, like Luthor. Now, Luthor obviously is an antagonist, right? He's a complete hypocrite, and he mainly serves as an obstacle for Merlin to overcome. His wife dies due to his desire to have a son, and his lack of understanding for what balance of the universe means. Give a life, take a life sort of thing. He's also a complete idiot, and I'll explain why in just a minute. But let's talk about the guards next, the security guards. I'm about to go in on this, because the security guards on this show are some of the worst. No. They are the worst security I have ever seen in anything. You know the term stormtrooper aim? Yeah, these guys wouldn't even know how to pull the trigger. Literally every time they're needed on the show, they are nowhere to be seen. The sheer amount of time someone's bedroom gets broken into on the show is ridiculous. You would think after the first time or the first couple times they would up security in their bedrooms, especially when they have guests in the palace, but you'd be wrong. I honestly lost count of the amount of times Luthor invites guests to stay over, who end up trying to kill them, yet he continues to invite more people to stay over at his castle. That's why he's a complete moron. And you think the guards will get better at keeping an eye on their guests, but most of the time, the guards aren't even in the hallways that lead to the king's or prince's chambers. If you're not protecting the royal family, then what are you guarding? In the scene where Luthor gets mortally wounded by some circus act dudes hired to assassinate Arthur, there is a big sword fight, and Arthur calls for the guards 3 times. 3 times! And nobody shows up. The king and prince are literally being assassinated in the king's bedroom, with furniture getting knocked over and the sounds of swords clanking together. And none of the guards hear this. None. And don't get me started on how easily these fools get tricked and often murdered on the show. I don't think any security guards on the show get a single kill, ever. I don't think they ever even hit anybody with their sword or catch anyone they're chasing after at any point on the show. But I digress. Let's move on. Now I want to talk about the non-noble knights of the Round Table. Now there isn't much to say about them, to be honest. They're all loyal and noble. Gawain likes adventure. Lancelot's life goal is to become a knight, and when he finally does, he wears it with pride. Ian, or Ian, however you say his name, probably had a troubled past, but we don't really know, they never really explain it. Percival's the only one I really want to talk about because we know absolutely nothing about him, and he's the only non-noble knight on the show who isn't the focus of any episodes. It's weird because the actor who plays him is also on the Netflix show Umbrella Academy, and I really liked his character on there, but on the Merlin show he barely has any dialogue. I'm pretty sure he doesn't even talk for the first 2 or 3 episodes he's in, at all, which really disappointed me. And he also holds a sword like Kawhi Leonard holds a basketball, which I thought was pretty funny. Alright, now let's talk about Gaius. Alright, the dude is a walking encyclopedia. He either has the answers, owns a book that has the answers, or he knows where you can find the person that has the answers. The rare moments where he isn't useful, Merlin usually just resorts to asking the dragon for help. Gaius is the one character that I honestly expected to die at some point, because of how much he makes Merlin's life easier. You know, I thought he would die and then Merlin would have a harder time solving problems, let him reach a breaking point. But Merlin never reaches a breaking point, at least not mentally, although he does almost die a few times. However, everybody almost dies at some point. Gaius makes life for all characters on the show easier. Overall, he's a very likable character. Alright, now let's talk about Arthur. Now, my main issue with Arthur is that you would think, considering how many times Merlin has warned him of something and ended up being right, Arthur would believe Merlin more often when he says things. But apparently you'd be wrong. He also abuses the hell out of Merlin on some straight up domestic violence type stuff. Hell, I'll even call it child abuse. The show keeps telling us how great of a king Arthur will eventually become, but when he does take the throne, he gets manipulated by his uncle. And after that, there's a 3-year time jump, so we have no clue how good of a king he actually is. Also, you would think a guy who constantly gets mortally wounded would have more scars on his body. I think I'm gonna leave it there and make a part 2 later on, where I'll talk about Guinevere and Merlin and the dragon and Morgana. So if you want to see a part 2, then tune in next time for part 2. Thank you.